welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. And we're back with a guest who has not been on the show previously, and really glad to have her. She's a friend of one of my best friends, no longer with us, unfortunately. And she's got to spend some time out in the field with him like I have. As a matter of fact, she is out in the field right now and just heard whoops and other stuff just a few minutes ago. And we are recording this show while she is sitting out in the dark in her fave research area, which is her yard. Welcome to the show, Lady of the Woods, DEE SIMS. Glad to have you.
Thanks for the invite, Duke. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. We're not looking at any really hot temperatures until next week. It's going to stay in the 80s and low 90s for a little while, so woo.
Yeah, it was 100 degrees here today. Yeah, I'm still paying for it now.
Well, you could have been with us a week and a half ago, and we were up in the Sapphire Mountains, and it was 23 degrees, and we were freezing to death. That was lots of fun.
No, thank you. I think I'll take the heat over the cold anytime. You're gonna hear the dog in the background, and my pit bull right now is checking out the wood line.
This is the early alert system, folks. If the dogs are going off, something's trying to sneak up on the property.
Yeah, and then when they get totally quiet, they're so close that they don't want to make a sound. They don't want to even breathe. All of a sudden, the dogs get very quiet.
Well, hopefully we can get enough time in between, or they'll just sneak up. Hey, you guys, sneak up right now so the dogs will quit barking.
Yeah. That would be so much fun. They, like I said, they spend a lot of time knocking on the back of our sheds. I have a couple sheds out here that our stuff is in, and they'll come up and knock on them. They threw a rock at the house a couple nights ago. I thought they hit it with their hand, but I went out and searched and finally found, up on the upper part, probably about 9 foot up, was a nice hole in my brand new shed. And you can see where it hit after that was a big clump of dirt. So, and if I look back from the angle it came from, it's from the wood line right behind me. So it's not very far, but that's their favorite place to sneak up, especially at night.
Well, you have so much activity that's been going on, especially at your other property before you guys moved out of there. It was just, a regular thing. They were around there all the time. Do you have the same kind of intensity of activity where you're at now?
No, not so much, but there's a lot of changes here that, when you first get started on a new piece of property and you know that they're here, a lot of times they'll wait for some kind of routine, they'll either let themselves be known right off the bat, or they'll stay away to figure out if they want, any interaction with you or whatever. But these guys let me know they were here right off the bat, which is, no matter where I go, that just seems to happen. I don't know. They follow me around or something. But,
yeah, you're a Squatch magnet now.
Yeah, but these guys will actually, they've done quite a bit lately. I know for a while there, we had those really bad storms, and they were gone. They weren't out and about, but the storms were really, really bad. If that dog don't be quiet. I just heard another whoop back here.
If they get up a little bit closer so the mic could pick it up, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, you can tell them that. Did you hear that, guys? Bella, come. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I'm hearing things in 2 different places now. I sit out here with the lights on. I usually, if I'm not going live, I'll sit out here and probably sit out here for 3 or 4 hours in the dark by myself out here in front. I mean, I'm exactly 2 feet away from my front door, and I sit here and I have this, I wish you could see this, but I have this beating stick here. And I have my gun sitting alongside of me, and then I have my binoculars. And when the moon is really full and I look out with the binoculars, I can see the movement a whole bunch better, than without, because it's really lit up out here. I am in the woods. I mean,
we've got the, what do they call it? The strawberry supermoon or something is going on right now.
Yeah, and it is huge. I mean, I just took a couple pictures of it. It's really pretty.
Sweet.
It's huge.
You can send them and we could put them on the show so everybody else can see them too.
Yeah, they're really nice. I mean, I couldn't get close enough because I only use my iPhone. I don't have a camera, but I tried to zoom in a little bit, but it's beautiful and it is massively huge. And my front yard is lit up like a Christmas tree. So have fun with them trying to sneak up on me tonight.
Yeah, well, they'll just cloak.
Yeah.
They cheat like that, so.
Whatever they're gonna do, they just wait till I go in the house. I sat out here for 4 hours, Duke, and the minute I went in my house and laid down, they slapped the wall.
They wanted you to come back out again so they could
And
watch you some more.
I came back out and I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Don't be hit." I said, "I was out here for 4 hours. You didn't do anything." I said, "I go in the house, you hit the wall." I said, "Knock it off." And I went back in, got my pajamas off, and went back into bed, and they hit it again. And I was like, "That." I mean, good grief.
I have a theory that they have a sense of humor.
I got a sense of humor. I know they do. They didn't like it very much. Let me tell you, their sense of humor kind of changed a little bit in the other shed we had. They did it wrong. The people that we bought it from had done it wrong. And so it was everything in the house that we have now was reversed the other direction. And of course, there's no walls, so right behind where the bathroom would be next to the bedroom, and there's a little tiny window up there, and it's probably I'd say about 8.5 feet off the ground, because this thing is up on pedestals to make it level. Anyway, so we're sitting there, Lizzie and I are sitting there, and we're talking, and we look out the window, and the moon is right there, right out that window. We could see it perfectly. It was beautiful. And so she asked me if I'd paint her fingernails. I said, sure. So I get my stuff out, and she goes, "Grandma, what happened to the moon?" And I look up at the window, and I said, "What?" And then I said, "I don't know." I said, "Maybe there's something in the way." So we looked back down again, looked back up, and there's the moon. And I was like, okay. I know who blocked out the moon on my 8-foot window. They had to go straight there and look through that window. That's their favorite thing to do, is look through my windows. And now that I have curtains, it's a little harder for them to do, but they weren't too happy about that. So, I mean, I got a bunch of knocks that night that we had I put some little kind of padding up into the window so they couldn't look in. They didn't like that very much.
Freaking peeping Toms.
And I had, like I said, I come out here quite a bit. One night I come out here, and I had told everyone on my live chat this because it was just amazing to me. And I had come out my front door, and our car was sitting right. It's kind of hard to describe. If you look on my videos, you'll see the way my little layout is in the front here. And we had the car parked right out front because it was raining, and it had been raining for a while. That way we can just jump in the car and take off. So the car was sitting out front, and I had come out. It was probably, I don't know, anywhere between, because I couldn't tell you really what time it was, anywhere after 1 o'clock in the morning. I came out here, and as soon as I opened the door, usually what I do is I flip on the light and I come outside. But we've had these great big huge beetles that end up, bombarding our front door, so I left the light off. But as soon as I took a step out, I figured I better turn that light on so I could see. I flipped that switch, and something right in front, probably I'd say about 3 foot high, actually was on all fours. It took off so fast that it kicked up all these rocks, and they hit the side of the house. And then as soon as it got to the other side, it was right in front of our car. As soon as it got to the other side of the car, it whistled. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I mean, it was so close to me. I wasn't but, 8 feet away. And then it took off running, and I didn't know. I mean, we've got bear and cougar and all kinds of stuff here, but it was so black. And the way it had kicked up the rocks, I was just, I didn't know what it was because I really didn't see it. I just saw the tail end of it. And then right after,
bears and cougars don't whistle.
Yeah, I know. But right after it whistled, then I got a knock on the back of the shed, a double knock. And I was like, okay, sorry, didn't mean to scare you. It is my house, though. I mean, what were you doing at my window? That's what I think it was. I think it was a little one at the window.
Getting a little bit too brazen.
Oh, they love doing that. I can't wait because we don't have any running water in the house, so we have a porta potty on the outside. So guess where you have to go in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom?
Oh, good thing you're on good terms with them.
Yeah, can you imagine them knocking it over while you're in there?
Yeah, if
Hey,
they
let's
didn't
have
like
some
you, that could
fun.
be pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have some fun with her. Let's knock it over. Yeah, that ain't gonna be too fun.
Don't give any ideas.
Yeah, you're right there.
Well, at the beginning of the show, I made allusion to the fact that we both have a mutual friend now departed, and of course, I was talking about Kevin Lang from the Glag Saga, and he got to be lucky enough to go down there and hang out with you on your property and do one of your nighttime sit in the yard and watch the forest people running around routines.
Yeah.
I got to be lucky enough to have him up here for 2.5 days, go camping with, and we just showed that video again in my last video, episode 120, where we were out doing research up in the Sapphire Mountains, and had found the same spot that Kevin was in 2019. So yeah, we both got to go out in the field with Kevin. What was it like for you?
It was awesome. I miss him so bad. We had such a good time and we got along so well. And after he got better, he spent quite a few weekends at my house, and we would sit out there. We'd sit at the window, and they got really close, and quite a few times they were spotted by multiple people, not just him or I. Khaki Lackey and his wife Kat were there one night, and we were surrounded by them. Kevin was standing in my driveway. I was sitting on top of their truck, on top, because I wanted to be up on top so I could see the backside of my property, because that's where I saw the eye shine.
Right.
Well, everybody was all four of us were just kind of walking around the truck, me sitting on top, but they were kind of walking around the truck. And then Kevin took off, and he comes back, and he said, "Dee, is Boo here?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I think I just heard someone say boo." And I said, "They weren't trying to scare you?" And he goes, "No, I don't think so." And I said, "Well, to tell you the truth," I said, "I'm not sure." I said, "But one of the boys, my grandkids lived with us, and my grandson had just come back he was allowed to walk around our block because we lived in a very rural area. And him and his buddies had come around the corner. It was almost dark. It was almost completely dark. It was dark, but it wasn't completely dark yet. The night lights had just come on the streets. And one of the boys said that when he walked past a tree line, which was about 150 yards away from my front door, he said that one of them jumped out with her arms to the sides and just went, "Ugh," at him. And they took off screaming. All I could see was the flashes bouncing as they were running towards the house. And when they came in, they were completely freaked out. And they're like, "He jumped out at me, he jumped out at me." And I said, "Yep, Boo's here." And that's why I named him that. One of his favorite tricks.
It's great how to get their nicknames sometimes. We got a couple of them that we nickname too, and it always seems like it works out that way. It's some characteristic or something they do or something. And yeah, Boo sounds like a good name for that one.
Oh yeah, that was his favorite thing to do, is scare people, But Kevin and I were sitting the night that was the most distinct to me with him there, because lots of stuff had happened. I mean, I could go on for days and days with all the activity and all the things that had happened at the house with or without him there. But he used to like to make that water noise, with his mouth all the time, and that would draw them in. And this one night he told me that, sorry about the dog, I'm gonna yell at that dog. One night he told me that he was supposed to come to my house. So he asked me if he'd come that weekend. I said, "Well, sure, I don't care." So he came down to the house, and we had started to go live. Dog, I'm telling you. We had started to go live, and I got up to go, because we heard lots of movement, and I saw movement, and I got up and went into the other room, probably to get a cup of coffee or use the restroom or something like that. Oh, yeah, it was, yeah. And I heard clearly in my head, grandma. And I don't know where it came from or why it was grandma. It made no sense to me. But when I came back in, I said, I just heard the word grandma. And he started crying. And I was like, what's wrong? And he kept giving me the sign to end the live chat. And I was like, what's wrong? And he said that he believed that's why he was supposed to come there, to see grandma. And what was odd about this, very odd about this, was, I know he's trying to get this. What was very odd about it is I never told anybody about the gray one that was in my front yard, who actually stepped out from behind a tree exactly where Kevin's car was always parked when he came there. She stepped out from that tree so we could see her 100%. She was fully gray in the front, you know, real dark gray in the front, light gray hair. I don't know how tall she was because I wasn't even paying attention to any of that, but she actually stepped out so we could finally see her. And she did that for Kevin. And then I never saw her.
Now, according to Kevin, she showed up at the place that he was staying at over in Arkansas after that, and she's about 10 foot tall, and he was quite shocked at how big she was.
Yeah, she was big.
And he didn't think that the female Sasquatch down in the south got that big. And apparently she talked to him, and she's like a great aunt or something of Glag. And she's originally from up north, according to what he was saying.
Well, I thought she must have been grandma. Why, you know what I'm saying?
Well, according to them, what they call, from what I understand, to them, grandma is like, you know, grandma and all her sisters.
Okay, gotcha.
Grandpa is grandpa and all his brothers. So even though this wasn't directly mom, it was one of mom's sisters. And apparently years and years and years before, she had, you know, for whatever reason, moved down to that area. And her mate was one of the local Sasquatch from down there.
Yeah, well, I know who that was too. I mean, I don't know his name. I called him Stinky because, you know, I mean, give me a break. I've never smelled anything like that in my life. And every time he showed up, which wasn't very often because the young one spends a lot of time running around the property. We had 4 acres. It was fenced in. And they spent a lot of time around that property. But when Stinky showed up, I mean, it was, oh my gosh, it would burn my nostrils. That's how bad he smelled. And then it would just disappear. And he would show up every once in a while. And then one time when Kevin was there, he walked in my room and he said, he goes, what is that stench? And I said, did you open the window? And he said, yeah. He goes, aren't we going live? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, you might want to go downstairs and ask Stinky to take a hike. And he goes, what? And I said, yeah, because that's Stinky. And he said, good name. He goes, oh my gosh. He goes, that reeks. I've never smelled one that bad. And I don't know what this thing got into, but let me tell you, he stunk so bad he burned my nostrils.
I wonder if he's a standard Sasquatch or if he's a skunk ape.
I don't know what he is, but oh my gosh. And I don't think I've ever seen him because if Grandma was 10 foot, I couldn't imagine how big Stinky was. He could have been the one that showed up at the window, you know, because I was on the 2nd floor and I was live one night and one of them walked up to the window and everybody that was on the live chat, because again, I wasn't in the room. I had left the room and I thought they were joking. You know, when I came back and they said it walked up to the window, they saw the head, you know, at the window. And I said, yeah, you're joking. And they said, no, really. And so the next day I went in to watch that video and that video disappeared amongst, you know, 3 other ones. But I never got to see it. You know, I didn't even get to see it. So that irritated me. But yeah, Stinky has to be, I mean, I don't know how far it is from the ground. Oh, copperhead. Dang it. Hold on 1 second. I got a copperhead right here. Get out. Dang snake. Boy, they get awful brave at night when you're sitting out here, don't they? I just had a copperhead snake just walk right up to my feet. Beep. Oh, that's what my stick is for.
Yep. Let's push the snakes away, stick. Go away, snake.
Yeah, go away, snake. That's 2 today, so I don't know.
Where's the hungry boogers at when you need them? Hey, the Slim Jim right here.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't doubt they're right now on the other side of the shed house here in that pile, because that's one of the places they like to go and like to hang out. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, because my light keeps going on. You can't see me, but I keep looking behind me because I have a motion detector light on the opposite side of the house, and it keeps going off and on, off and on, off and on.
Gee, I wonder what's going on over there.
Yeah, I don't have eyes in the back of my head, but you know, I can pretty much tell you what it is.
Might have something to do with the dogs barking too.
Yeah, because they're not close enough so they can see them. Wait until one of them gets close enough, that dog won't make a peep. It'll run inside its doghouse and not a sound.
Excellent.
Right now,
I wish they get closer sooner.
Yeah, me too, because he's irritating me to no end with his bark, 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 bark.
So like you were saying earlier, this isn't one of your regular dogs. It's a rescue that you've got. So
yeah, I tried.
What kind of dog is it? It's one of those really high-strung labs, like a meth lab or something?
It is. It's a lab shepherd mix, and it is. I had to electrify the fence just to stop that thing from getting out, because it would get out of that fence no matter how. I mean, I've tried so many different things. We have so many stays around there. Ooh, you're gonna get zapped. But that dog right now is really close to the fence. Well, anyways, we had to electrify it because it kept getting out, and it would eat anything. It would trash all my lights that I had out here for the boogers at night. It ate them all. They're all gone. I don't have any lights out here anymore because he ate them. So, hold on one second. Let me try something. Give me a minute. That dog is so irritating.
Okay, folks, we asked Dee to move back into the house and away from the barking dog, even though there's no doubt stuff going on out there with him barking. You won't be able to hear what she's talking about anyway.
Yeah, it's too rough with him in that mood. Like I said, when they get close, he'll get real quiet. He will go into his doghouse and you won't hear a peep. And sometimes, I mean, it's like I said, 4 hours the other night, he didn't make a sound. Not a sound.
Well, if he quits barking, you see him hiding in his doghouse, then go back outside.
Yeah. Because I would really, that's one of the reasons why I like going live here and with nothing else outside, especially with the dog not barking. But it is, you can hear everything. You can hear, people hear it every single time I go live. You've got either tree knocks or you've got this, they like to make this little click noise. And if you don't have good speakers or good headphones, you won't hear it. But they click, they'll repeat you. Every time you do it, they will repeat you. And that's why I said I think it's that little one that does that. And I have the little one's also attempting at this point to learn how to be an owl. Because the owls go off and the little one goes, ooh, ooh, ooh. And it's clearly not an owl. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it's fun when they're just trying to mimic things and they haven't really got it down yet. Some of the mistakes they make are hilarious, you know. Yeah. I heard one morphing back and forth between an owl and a crow, and like, those two species are enemies. You don't hear about, especially gosh. At night, you know, that's like really obvious rookie mistake.
Oh, well, like I said, I'm going to send you my audio so you can listen to some of them, but wait until you hear the one that sounds like our neighborhood cows. Now that's funny, because cows are making all kinds of noise during the day, but at night you might hear one looking for its baby or something like that. But when you hear one of these big guys trying to imitate the cow, it's absolutely hysterical. That is just the best, because you know for a fact that that is not a cow. It has a high-pitched squeal to it.
My favorite one we ever heard, we were listening to this sound, and it was so, we couldn't actually identify what it was. And it was repeating about every minute and a half. And this went on for the better part of an hour, and it had to be 20 minutes to a half an hour before I went, does that sound like a bullfrog? And the next time it made the noise, my friends went, yeah, it does. That's impossible. We're near the top of a mountain. There's no water up here. There are no bullfrogs. And that's way too loud. I said, is there some kind of local bird that makes it sound like that? And they're all like, no.
That sounds like me. I'm always trying to figure out what those silly sounds are. There's some stuff that we heard up on the property where we first met Boo. We heard this. It sounded like a a dying goat on steroids. Nobody could figure out what it was. It was the worst. It was the worst and the strangest sound. And I asked everybody, and not one person. It was so loud. It was so deep, and we couldn't figure out what it was. I've never heard anything like that ever. And all the places I've been out, researching or out, experimenting in different places, I've never heard that sound. And that was wicked sounding. And it did. It sounded like a goat.
It could have been some other thing.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I just don't want to know what it was now. I'm not interested. I'm glad I left that area.
Well, that was one of the fun things I did with the intro to my show when I was making the most recent version of it, was pulling up oddball cryptid sounds in addition to having all kinds of recognized Bigfoot sounds, even footsteps that one of my friends recorded right next to his tent on one of our expeditions. Those footsteps right at the beginning, those are actual Bigfoot footsteps. We recorded them too. The chirps and the whistles and the whoops and all that kind of stuff. And then there's two possibly dogman howls that Cindy got over here. And right when you go at the beginning of it, we hear something go, "Rrr, rrr, rrr." That is not a Bigfoot. That was recorded over in Michigan, and very likely that was a Gugwe.
Oh my God.
And I've had a bunch of people tell me when they play that loud and their pets are nearby, they freak out and run away.
Oh, I think I would too. No, I don't think I ever want to run into one of those. I've never heard that sound. I'm not looking forward to ever hearing that sound. Someone told me not too long back that they believed that there were Gugwe here. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but by the sound of it and kind of like the picture that you have of the Gugwe is exactly what they were describing. And that does not make me happy. What also doesn't make me happy is I am probably, as a crow flies, within 10 minutes from Cloudy, and Cloudy is known for DM activity. And so, I'm just sitting there going, well, there's too many cryptids out there. I don't know who's telling the truth. I don't know if they actually are or not, but it's just not something I'm interested in. I don't want anything to do with that kind of stuff. It's hard enough for my brain to wrap around my face-to-face encounters, let alone for my brain to wrap around what possibly could else be out there. And I know I've listened to a lot of shows where people are just totally traumatized for the rest of their lives because of these things that they've run into, and who knows what they are unless they can explain in detail what their faces look like. Yeah. Now, your picture of a Gugwe doesn't look a whole bunch different than one of the guy's pictures of a skunk ape in Florida. The same teeth,
real similar face. Yeah. Except this definitely wasn't a skunk ape. It was in northern Minnesota in the middle of the winter when it was 20 below.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is really getting crazy and creepy, but I don't spend much time out there in the back like I did up on the property in Finley with Boo, because Boo protected me. Then the last time that we had spent any time up there on that property before Boo came to Arkansas, this was also in Oklahoma, Kevin was up there with us. And Kevin and my husband and myself were sitting at the table. We had just finished eating, cleaned up our mess. We were getting, we always go in at a certain time because they tell me when they want me to go in. They come around, they start making noises. I leave the fire going, I go inside, I close the door, and I lock it. And that's just the way it goes all the time because they like to unlock doors. I mean, they like to open doors. So I lock the doors. Anyway, so the three of us were sitting there, and all of a sudden we heard the most ungodly, loud, all I can say, because I don't really even know what a demonic sounds like, but it almost sounded like a demon from a movie. And we got up, the three of us, and all three of us were armed at that time. At that second, we all were armed, and we were facing every entrance into that camper and spinning around and looking around and paying attention. And this thing was running around our camper. And on one of my videos, and I don't watch my own videos, I don't even remember what I name them most of the time, but I do have to go back and find that video, because I was recording and people that were listening could hear it. And this thing ran around my RV, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you heard this thud, 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 thud. It was footfall, heavy footfall. And then this thing really started to scream, and I believe Boo chased it off, because you could hear it getting further away and further away and further away. And I think, and that was the end. That was the last time we had actually taken our camper off that property, and we haven't been back. I don't know what it was, but all I know is that Boo chased it off, and it took him quite a while to get it gone.
Yeah, as far as the identity of Mr. Smiley, that thing that I ran into when I was sledding when I was 10, all the research is pointing in the direction of it was one of the higher numbered sub-variety type northern horrors, either the Wendigo or something else, because they have that tendency to call the big hairy people eaters up there Wendigo and Wendigo and Wendigo and Wendigoag, etc., etc., etc. All lots of variants on that name.
Right.
And then I discovered that the Micmac Indians had this other thing, which apparently was separate to it because they had a different name for it, and they called that the Gugwe. And then I got the description of that, and I started looking around, and I found out that other tribes had descriptions of the same thing, and they had names for it. Some of them were really similar, like the Chippewa, I think it was Tugawee, and that sounds very similar to Gugwe, but they're a couple thousand miles away from the tribe that has that name. Right. So for a long time, uncertain as to what it was that I saw, still fairly uncertain about it, but I now have friends that are in communication with Sasquatch people, some of them psychically. One actually that I know talks to them. Well, actually there's more than one. And one of the things I gave them was that picture, that reconstruction of what I saw in northern Minnesota in 1972 in February, and said, show this to your friend and ask him what it is. And he said Gugwe. And I said, did you tell him that name? And they said, no. He looked at it and said Gugwe.
Oh my gosh.
So apparently they use the same exact word for it too yet. And then more information was asked. What do you do when you run into a Gugwe? And they said, twist their heads off. So they apparently do not get along with them. Then the next question was, we can't twist their heads off. What should we do? And the answer was shoot them in the eye.
Wow. What about Janasqua?
Not certain about that one. The information that I've been able to dig up, it's either some kind of a rogue Sasquatch tribe, or it literally was one of the giants, and I'm leaning toward was one of the giants at this point. The Janasqua were actually, literally giants and not actually Sasquatch, but again, uncertain, not enough information, and haven't been able to coax any info out of the Sasquatch people on that one. It's not easy getting questions and answer time with them, okay?
Yeah, there's quite a few of the cryptids that just seem, people just, and other people that I know that talk to them, they just don't seem to want to talk about, and I would like to know why. It's either because they don't know what they are, or because they're not supposed to talk about them, or it's because, I don't know, if they say it, do they conjure them by saying it? I mean, I have no idea. That's all, everything's just hearsay, and everything's just speculation to me. I have absolutely no clue. But I do know.
I've gotten answers like that from them before too, where the answer is just not no. And that's it. They
don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah, doesn't that pique your interest right there?
Well, it tells me that they're not all knowing. There's certainly things that they don't know about, just like we don't know about them. But there are things that we don't know about that they do know about. So I treasure the fact that I have friends that can actually communicate with them, and occasionally I can pester them to ask a question. Actually, more than one will ask the same question with their different little groups, so I get answers from more than one group and see what they say.
Yeah, well, I only have one person that I've talked to that actually talks to them, and a lot of the stuff that I thought that I understood just from the years that I've been doing this, I was completely wrong, which was fine because I had no clue. Like most people, we have no clue. And if you get somebody that's able to talk to them and you get a better picture, it makes things a little bit easier. The only reason it makes it easier for me is because I was completely going in the wrong direction. We were trying, we as humans try to put it in a little box, you know, something that we could, if it's a monster, it's a monster, and you could, you know, you got to kill a monster. But talking to these people, I realized that there are things out there throughout, you know, centuries and centuries we knew nothing about, and now that things are coming to light, we've been taught wrong. And so now that we're learning from whether it's the forest people or, you know, somebody who talks to them, we're getting a better idea. I still believe that they are guardians. You know, now the lady that I talked to at one point told me, she said, yeah, but not the way you understand it. You know, so herein lies again what we've been taught, our words, our verbiage. You know, what they consider guardians might not be what we consider guardians. So I'm not real sure. I didn't go into detail with it, but that was nice to know. It was good to know that that part, at least, I was kind of on the right track. But I thought, you know, that these, I didn't think that they were relics. I thought they'd been around for, you know, centuries or whatever. Okay. But I didn't think that they were like Neanderthals. You know, I didn't believe that. They're their own species. Okay, so they have human DNA, but, you know, so do monkeys, okay, or vice versa. There's just too much information that's not concrete enough for me to say, hey, I think I want to research and find out. I don't want to do it. I don't want to research to find out what they are. I like the interaction that I'm having. If I go too deep into it, I'm going to lose what's happening here, and I don't want that to happen. There's a lot of people out there that are very traumatized from their sightings. You know, you've gotten kind of past yours, haven't you? I mean, yeah, kind of maybe past yours, but
yeah, well, yeah, I had PTSD for decades, and, you know, was receiving meds and counseling and the whole thing. And
okay.
yeah, I'm past it now because I realize that what I'm interacting with and doing research on isn't what I saw in northern Minnesota.
Right,
Because
yeah,
if it was, I would never go in the woods again. And as a
yeah.
matter of fact, I'm reasonably confident that the group that I am interacting with up there actually like me. So chances are good if something like that showed up, they would get it out of there.
Well, that'd be good. That's good to know. I mean, I know you and I talked about that before. And like I said, there's a lot of people that are very traumatized. Even by a brief sighting, they're still traumatized because you can't put it any place in that box called a brain of yours. But my interactions are not aggressive. My interactions are completely different. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I've been in the woods in Honebby. I've been in the woods in mountains in Arkansas. I've been at people's houses that have had aggressive, you know, Sasquatch there. I never had aggression there.
No.
You know, none of that happened to me. And I couldn't tell you why. I don't know why, Duke. But I do know, and it doesn't make me special or anything, but there's got to be a reason why some people have such bad experiences with these. And I'm not just talking about, okay, they were hunting and they had interrupted a hunt, or they got too close to a bedding area, or they were just way out in the woods and they didn't belong there. You know, they weren't used to, you know, the big guys were not used to seeing humans. I don't know what the reasons are, but I do know that it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it doesn't matter if you're young or old, either you're traumatized for the rest of your life because these things scare you half to death from something. Now, notice, now these people we're talking about didn't die.
Yeah.
Okay? They lived to tell the tale. But why is it some people that don't even realize that they're on their property, that they've lived with them for years and they know there's something out there, why do they get such, you know, aggression from them? And then someone else can walk on that property and talk to them and everything's fine. I don't understand that part. That part, is an enigma to me. I mean, literally. And
it's their psychic ability. They can read your intentions.
well, the husband and wife and kids that I talked to last year, they have no ill intent. They farmed. They didn't have any farm animals. They just, they gardened. That was their farming. And it was a really nice couple. The kids were well behaved. They didn't go out hunting. They had a little fishing hole they went to, They didn't spend much time out in the woods. They just basically kept to themselves. Yet their car had been hit quite a few times. The windshield was busted on one. One of the windows had a rock thrown through it and was busted. And that they had lived there. That was the second generation of that family. So is it because the family before them or the generation before them did something wrong to the Sasquatch people there? I mean,
it's always possible, but I mean, you got to consider that there's movement around amongst them too. There could be a completely different group there now, or there could be some juvenile delinquent, or there could be a lone rogue going through the area that's doing this stuff.
Oh yeah, I've been around a juvenile rogue. They aren't much fun.
No, they're jerks, and that's some of them are out wandering around on their own because they're such jerks. Their own family doesn't want to put up with them. They throw them out. Well, then what are they going to do? Oh, let's go terrorize the humans.
Oh yeah, as long as they terrorize someplace else, just not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with that. But I don't know. Like I said, that's something that just really that makes me think a lot. I wonder why there's certain people that they get along with, and have no problem with having never met before. Or maybe the Sasquatch people have been watching them for a long period of time, and that's why they decided that they're okay. And like you said, they have this ability, and I think that ability also emanates from them, because if they are comfortable with you, only certain places I've been to where I've gotten a good feeling, and I can feel when they're around. I can't. It's hard to describe. It's not the hair on the back of my neck doesn't stick up. It's almost like there's someone standing in front of me with a magnet and it's pulling my hair towards them. But it's not. That's how I feel when they're close. And yet I've been around certain people or certain areas where the feeling wasn't so good, and I leave. Yeah. I don't care if it's a camp out. I don't care if it's a research group. I leave. I don't stay. I pack my bags and take off.
I'm the same way too. Follow your impressions and your empathy for the area, whatever you want to call it, same sort of thing. And the area that we're in, apparently they seem to like us. Maybe they think we're funny or whatever. I don't know. But it's kind of weird because when they're not there, I can tell they're not around. Yeah. But when they're there, I can't specifically go, they're here. But one of the ways I notice is just exactly the opposite of what you would think. If I feel like normally if I'm in the woods, I want to turn around and look behind me all the time because I'm always expecting a mountain lion to be tracking me or a grizzly sneaking up or something like that. Paranoid in the woods, and why I'm alive. But if I'm just sitting at camp and by myself and I don't think they're around or anything, I've still got that. I want to turn around and look behind me all the time. Yeah. Okay, if they're around, I forget to do that. As a matter of fact, I'll just sit there in my chair and fall asleep. So it's just the opposite of what you would expect. Yeah. It's like Sasquatch has my back, I guess. I feel really comfortable with the ones in the area that we do most of our research in, and I'm pretty confident that they're okay with us being there, and in general they like us. And as long as they're around, there's definitely not going to be any other predators sneaking around. So I get pretty much relaxed because no big grizzlies or mountain lions are sneaking into camp when there's 10, 12 foot tall Bigfoot nearby watching. Yeah, no, I mean, I get you there because we have cougar here. We have bear, we don't have grizzlies. That's one of the reasons I would, well, your area, maybe not because they'll protect you, but I think they protect us here too. And I know I found cat prints here. Everybody around here said, told us lately they've seen a mama bear and her cubs.
you know, but they're going to stay mostly away from here because of the dogs alone. You know, there's just so much activity here with the dogs that they're just not even going to bother. But a lot of times when I'm out there at night by myself, you know, sitting out there for all those hours, completely alone in the dark, and I know that they're there, and I don't worry at all about, I should worry about a cat coming around the corner, you know, something along those lines, but I'm the same way. I just don't worry about it. I don't think about it. I do when my grandkids are around, you know, I'm on total alert. And that's why I carry, and they don't seem to mind that I carry my gun, you know. I mean, it's never bothered. I've never had any problems with the gun, you know, on my hip, you know, when I'm out there. Well, not on my hip, I carry it behind, but they've never had a problem with me doing that. And I always show it to them. I tell them, this isn't for you.
Yeah, and that's why they don't have a problem with it, because they know that you're not threatening them and that you need to protect yourself from other things that are out there.
Yeah, and I'm not the type of person that's just going to whip out the gun because I saw something move in the brush and just
No,
you know,
no, not easily spooked. Same thing up there where we're at. It's not so much that I think that they're actually consciously going, oh, we should protect our human friends. No, 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 no. I think there's no predators in that valley because they just won't allow any predators in that valley, because we've seen tracks of their munchkins running around, their little squatchlets. We found plenty of their tracks. Well, you don't want any, you know, 1,000-pound grizzly bears or 300-pound mountain lions running around where the kids are. So guess what they're not allowing in the valley? The only thing we've never seen a track of a bear or mountain lion in that valley in 5 years. What we have seen is tons of tracks of elk and moose. And you do need to worry about moose. Oh, yeah. So mainly that's what we're worried about while we're up there, is having to play a rodeo clown with a tree and be on the other side of it from a moose that's trying to get you. Oh, but now with our latest recon, we figured out where they are in the valley, so we can just stay away from that area where the moose are hanging around. We don't have to really worry about them either. Yeah, well, that's good. I haven't seen the cat or the cat prints in quite a while, and that's why I don't think the big guys stay here. I mean, you can go out my back door and you can go for 45 miles before you'll see a person, you know, or a house. God.
Up in the mountains, you know.
A lot of woods. Yeah, and for everybody that's wondering why Dee's pretty face isn't on the screen, that road going out into the middle of nowhere there on the other side of that ridge in the background, that's where she's at right now. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful up there. I mean, it's gorgeous up here. I love it. I've loved both the places that I was in, and I love the activity, but as you can tell by looking, there's lots of area for them to be in. I mean, and Lisa from Texas YouTuber, she did a drone of my other property that we were on, and you could tell, I mean, for miles and miles, there was nothing. There was no houses, there was no nothing. It was all woods, and that's where I want to be. You know, I feel comfortable out there. And these guys, like I said before, I'm new here, you know, they don't seem to have a problem with showing themselves or making a bunch of noise, or they don't have a problem with that, but I don't think they're comfortable enough with me yet, because some of the stuff that I'm used to at the other property, they don't do here. So, you know, this is a different clan, you know, I'm not sure exactly what to expect. I don't do anything in particular. What I do is I talk to them. You know, I might leave marbles out or a feather. My front yard was loaded, and I mean loaded, Duke, with Y sticks. I woke up one morning and there must have been 50 of them on my front yard. Oh my goodness.
They were everywhere. I mean, even teeny tiny ones. I was like, what the heck happened here? I mean, it looked like a tornado had gone through and threw a bunch of Y sticks all over my yard. Everywhere were Y sticks. And I just started laughing. I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I mean, it's
that's like a Sasquatch dollar bill. They're throwing money at you.
Oh my God. It's just some of the stuff they do is just wild to me. They took my lights that I had out there by my blue Christmas tree. They took some of the lights, and my husband asked me the next morning, he goes, did you move those lights? And I said, no. They moved them from the back, which is, how far away is that, Denny? 20 yards. They moved it right to the front of our house where our pit is, our barbecue pit. They took them out of the ground and brought them up here and stuck them in the barbecue pit. And I was like, okay, what, you don't want them out there or what?
Interesting redecorating choices there, Forest Construction Inc.
Yeah, and the one on the back of the house I noticed yesterday, we were sitting out there. I was like, what happened to that light over there? Because that light's been up there for quite a long time, and it was pulled out of the ground and laid on the ground. I said, will you stop messing with my lights? What lights I have left that the dog didn't eat? Oh my God.
Have fun with lights. It's like that one poor guy that had all those lights up on posts and stuff way above, and they're motion sensing, and if anything would walk by, the lights would go off. And for a while the lights are going off, and then he started realizing for a couple nights the lights weren't going off, and he went over and checked the yard, and he found a trail of sticks that somebody had put down. If you stayed on one side of the stick, it didn't detect you with the motion sensor, but past the stick. So he went, oh, okay. So he took all the sticks and he threw them out in the woods. So for the next night, again, the lights were blinking off and on. Night after that, no lights blinking off and on. Next night, no lights blinking off and on. Then he gets curious, goes out and looks again. They turned the lights facing the sky. So yeah, they were still going off. They were just shining on the sky, so you would see them going off.
Oh my gosh. I saw a bright light too out here. I was wondering what that was. I was looking out the window, and just all of a sudden this light just lit up on the side of our tree line, and it's like someone took a flashlight from the ground and faced it straight up, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then it just disappeared. Oh, it just out of nowhere. I have no idea. What?
That's really weird.
That is weird, because there's nobody out there. There's nobody with a flashlight dumb enough to come on my property in the middle of the night. They must think twice, they must not have very good senses to come on this property at night. Between the dogs and me, I got a lot to worry about. But I was live, and I couldn't get the camera to turn fast enough before it disappeared, but it just lit up like someone had a flashlight. And right here in my tree line. I was like, what the heck is that? It wasn't an orb. I don't have any idea. But some of the strangest things happen out here. It is just, I'm constantly, my head's on a swivel. I'm constantly looking around me, because there's always something going on out here. But I don't think, like I said, because they have that much area to run in, I don't think they stay really close by all the time, because I don't always have activity. I have something going on all the time because there's a lot of animals here. But they have come by this past couple of nights of me sitting outside. Boy, they love that. They absolutely love it. And when I come in, they don't like it so much. But anyway, they're getting a little bit more comfortable. So I'm starting to do a routine. Things are starting to get a little bit normal here. We're not, panicking and freaking out because we just got here. We had no water in the house. We had no electricity. We had a generator running. It was pretty rough in the beginning, but now we're starting to get into a routine, and that's what I think makes them comfortable, a little bit more comfortable. So now they're getting, this is another thing. Now the baby's coming up. I found footprints out there that were 6-7 inches, long, and I've had people here, I take them out and show them the footprints, because they stay. There's nothing else out there. Those footprints stay. You can actually cast them.
How long have you been there now?
We've been here, how long, Denny? 3 months.
Wow. That's really fast to have them letting the little ones walk right up on the property like that.
My point, 4 months maybe. They did the same thing to me in Findlay with the trailer, where the trailer was. I asked the grandkids to come look, because I thought they were baby bobcats in the front yard. And we were up in the loft of the RV, and I was like, oh my gosh, come look at this. Look at the babies. Not realizing they were baby squatches instead of baby, and then they start playing. They were shaking. I've got audio of them shaking trees like crazy. I'll tell you that story in a minute, but that was hysterical. But anyways, they were shaking the trees, and they were climbing, and one of them climbed up on top of the RV, and I ran out the front door. I said, no. And then all of a sudden everything got quiet and they disappeared. But then they came back the next night. And I also had, you could see the eye shine clearly from I had a 4-foot window on the back side of that camper. And I could look outside because I was no more than 2-3 feet away from the actual wood line. The front of the camper, I had plenty of room, but the back of the camper was actually in the tree line. And I could sit there and watch those babies play all over the place. It looked like sorry for lack of better words, they look like little baby monkeys jumping up all over the place. And the funny story I was going to tell you, this was just incredible. I had this on audio too. I had a generator on the back of my truck, you know, and that generator was pretty darn heavy. And I put the audio recorder out there, you know, I didn't know that they were going to be bothered by it. And I was always putting it out in the trees someplace, but this time I decided to put it on my truck. Well, first of all, I hear, and my husband was there that time, first I hear the generator move. I'm like, what are they doing? You know, they're pushing a generator around the back of the truck. And so I didn't say anything, didn't do anything. We just, you know, we just stayed in the house. But then on the recorder the next day, I heard it, and I kept hearing this ping noise. I couldn't figure out what that stupid ping noise was. I couldn't place it. And they had I'd put my recorder between the cab and the bed of the truck, you know, just left it sitting up there. Right. And they were pot-shotting it from across the side, trying to hit that recorder. Well, the next day I get up and I go outside to get the recorder, and I can't find it. And I was like, what happened to my recorder? And I finally found it underneath the truck. They hit it so many times. The back of my truck had probably about 2 cups of little baby pebbles that they had tossed at that truck, knocked that thing off the ground. And I said, you guys are a horrible shot. But they ended up knocking it down, and you could hear them when they went up to that. You could hear them breathing into the recorder. You could hear them shaking the trees by the recorder, waiting to see something that happened. So I said, look. You know, so I got the recorder in my hand, and I said, stop messing with my stuff. And I picked it up, I put it to my mouth, and I said, hello, hello, hello. And then I put it up in the air, and I pressed, you know, replay, and it said, hello, hello, hello. And then I threw it on the ground. I said, it's not going to hurt. Yeah. They never touched it after that. I could put it anywhere, and they never touched it. It was hysterical to listen to on that audio. We're downright frustrated with me putting that recorder from the tree to the back of my truck.
Yeah. You know, up there where we camp at, we never set up any game cams or video surveillance or anything like that. Yeah. One time we took a little teeny audio recorder and put it in the cup holder of one of the folding chairs that we had there. And Mike went to sleep, just turned it on, put it in there. And yeah, about an hour after we both went to sleep, you can hear footsteps walk up to it, and something taps it with their finger.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that too. And then Sandy had gotten me some recorders because I'd bought them plastic recorders until they ate one of them, and I freaked out. She bought me some wooden ones. So Lisa was visiting that weekend. She had come down to visit, and I had always put the recorder at that point. You know, I had started putting the recorder in the cup holder of that chair, and I put the recorder out there, and then I turned around and I took the flute and I blew in it, and I put it on the chair, and we went in the house, went about our business. And the next morning, early in the morning, you know, it's daylight, it's not dark, it's daylight, and Lisa and I are standing in the kitchen talking, and all of a sudden you hear this boop, and she went, oh, that's the flute. I mean, broad daylight. And they went out there and just blew on that flute and took off. And they didn't eat that one. But the other one, they broke it. You know, they squeezed it enough to where they broke it. So I told them, I said, don't break it. You know, it's break it. And then I put another one out there. They broke the second one too. So I stopped doing that. So now I have one that I don't think they're going to break. And I go out there and I blow on it once in a while. And I left it out a couple of times, but they haven't touched it. But I think I'm going to go back to doing that. I don't ever put cameras and stuff like that out there. I just won't do it. That's one of the reasons, Duke, that you don't see me having any videos of my property, me walking around showing signs and stuff like that. I don't do that because the less video that I do, the more interaction I have. Yeah. So I can put my audio recorder out with no problem. I can sit in my window and do my live chats. But if I go walking around out there, everything stops. I mean, I don't get any activity for, you know, a week. I mean, they just don't like it. So I want the activity. I want the interaction that I'm getting, you know, and because mine's not aggressive, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And I know I'm not helping the Sasquatch world out there as far as the research. But I'd be glad to share my stories and tell you what I do know. I can tell you all the things that they've done and everything that I've learned, being around them in all the places I've been. But I don't need to get hair samples, or I got plenty of footprints. They're welcome.
Interaction information is more valuable in my book than somebody out there for 50 years with game cams.
Yeah, well, you can come out here anytime and cast prints. There's prints all over the place out here.
There you go. And I never cast them. It's hilarious because earlier tonight there was a show on with Gugwe, from formerly of the Bigfoot Outlaws, talking about tracks and track casts and stuff. And guess how many tracks he's cast? Well, 0. And how many has he found? Thousands. And same thing with me. I've filmed hundreds, of the darn things, and I've never bothered to cast one because, like, why? What is it? A trophy? Who cares?
Yeah, I don't have any casts either. I don't cast any either. I'm just saying, if someone wanted to, they can go out there and cast to their heart's content because they're all over out there.
Yeah, same thing. I just got yelled at for the latest research video I did. Jerry Klein gave me a hard time because I wasn't paying attention to the tracks I was walking past. I was filming around and looking over my right shoulder to make sure Papa Craig wasn't disappearing. And apparently I filmed and walked past a bunch of nifty tracks. And I suck, and Jerry pointed that out.
Yeah, I stink too, because people will point that out once in a while. And I don't, when you get to the point when you're around them all the time, you just don't do that stuff anymore. It's just too interesting to have the one-on-one interactions than it is looking for prints or busted trees or whatever.
In this situation, it was just me and the one guest there, and I was kind of concerned for his safety because I'm the only person there to keep an eye on him. So I was kind of a little more focused on making sure that Papa C didn't disappear than I was on filming the latest nifty track and putting the tape measure down again.
I only go by my hand to tell you about how big they are. I don't ever use a tape measure either. But I'm pretty good with that because I've had so many kids and grandkids to tell you about how big their shoe size is. But other than that, like I said, I love what I'm doing out here, whether it was in Arkansas or both places in Oklahoma. And now I'm so close to the Texas border, it's crazy. But it is...
Oh, you can almost smell the barbecue sauce, I bet.
Yeah, you can, but I'm also very close to some areas that have some pretty bad cryptid cryptid stories coming out of, but I don't really care. At this point, I don't care. I like what's going on here. It could change tomorrow. Everything could change tomorrow, and I hope it doesn't for the bad. But right now, I think because they're letting the little one come so close to the house, that I think this is going to be a really good place. We're no longer in a position where we're going to flood. We're not in danger here like we were in the last place. And I believe that the big guys around here are very familiar with the people that live here because they've been here for 40, 50 years. We've talked to a lot of the neighbors. They've been here since they were children. So it's not like you have a bunch of outside people here. They're all the same people. And our neighbors who are Choctaw Indian, when I first met them, they said that Bigfoot was a myth. And by the way they said it, I was like, yeah, okay, I don't believe you. And then it didn't take long after we became buddies and we started helping each other out that the stories started flowing. Things that happened to them. In fact, not very long back, the gentleman had gone out with his brothers hog hunting because there's so many hog around here. And they had shot 3. One was a small size. They picked up that one. And then the 2 brothers picked up another one, and they decided to leave the big one and come back for it, for food. They were actually taking it food, not just to kill them. Right. And when they came back, that big one was gone. And there was no drag marks. There was nothing. There was nothing. It was just gone. And he said that was a big hog. And then he told me once about a deer he found shoved up in a tree. Well, big cats can do that too, but not the way this one was found. I think if a big cat was going to pull a deer up into a tree, I don't think it'd be, 8 foot up in a tree, number one. Number two, bones were broken. If a cat's going to take something, it's going to eat from it, and then it's going to put it up in a tree and come back and get it later. And this thing the rest of it just stayed there. There was nothing, it didn't disappear. It just withered away and stayed up in a tree. So I don't think a cat would have done that, do you?
Well, no, I would have wanted to eat it.
That's right. So, and then now he's starting to open up and tell me more stories. And then I've got another neighbor that didn't believe in Sasquatch, said he didn't believe in Sasquatch either, but yet I'm still getting stories from them about weird things that have happened over the years they've been here. So I think finally people are going to start opening up. And one thing I've learned about the Indians here, and I'll just call them Indians, they like being called Indians. Now, maybe other Indian tribes don't like it, but these guys like being called Indians. They said to me that, because I asked them point blank, you're not supposed to talk about the Sasquatch people because they believe harm will come to them. So that's why they're not allowed to discuss it with people.
Mm-hmm. So they're basically trying to protect them.
No, harm will come to the person talking.
Oh, okay. So it's the same prohibition and taboo that other tribes have about things like skinwalkers.
Exactly.
Don't use their actual name; it will draw their attention. Don't actually call the Pukwudgies. It attracts their attention. I had a native on from the Crow tribe, and she was talking about the Narumbi. They absolutely would not use their name. Well, she wanted to refer to them as Pedros for the mummy that they found in the Pedro Mountains. We decided to call them Pedros. And she wouldn't even come on the show until we had decided on which word we were going to use to describe them.
Which is why I call the DM.
Yeah.
Because, I don't use that word. I don't like that word. I don't think there's any kind of man in those things. So I don't like the word at all. And I do believe that if you say it long enough, I believe it's just like the skinwalkers, that you can actually, call them in. And I want no part of that. So, I mean, I could be 100% wrong. But either way, like I said, I'm too close to the neighborhood that they are very well known in this area to occupy. So
that's not reassuring. That's one thing I like about being up here, because there's like no reports of those guys anywhere near here. I think all the mountain giants squished them or something, but there doesn't seem to be any.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can see that happening. A lot of people ask, who do you think would win, a DM or a Sasquatch? And I said, well, I really believe the Sasquatch will win, especially those ones that are 12 foot, 13 foot, 14 foot, 15 foot. Yeah, I think they'd just tear them apart.
Yeah, the ones with the pituitary problem that get bigger than the average ones. Oh, yeah, they're like mini King Kong.
Yeah.
Mighty Joe Young, 15, 16 feet tall. Look at that one Blaine Tyler caught on video in that long pan in that gravel pit up in northeast Ontario. I think 16, 17 feet tall. It's built like the Hulk. Oh my God.
I know, I saw that one. That was freaky. We had, when we were looking for property up there in Findlay before we took the RV up there, before we were going to buy that property, I looked on Google Maps. And I guess you'd have to go back to that year where we were looking. I can't remember. I think it was 2013 or 2014. But anyway, I actually saw a Sasquatch on Google Maps when I zoomed in above the river in the place that we were looking at. And it had a deer tucked up underneath its arm.
Oh, man, I wish you could remember what year that was from. It'd be worth going get a snapshot of that thing.
I think I still have the picture.
If Google hasn't taken it down.
If Google hasn't taken it down, it's still there. And
you take a snapshot of it. It doesn't matter if they take it down or not. You got a copy of it then.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I still have a copy. I'll have to look for it. But I was shocked because it stood out. And I was like, that tree's got 2 legs and it has a deer underneath its arm.
Well, if you can find it, send it along. We'll include it in the show here so people can take a look at it.
Yeah, that is just absolutely freaky. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And you can tell by the size of the trees that are around it. And it looks like its head is bent down. It's got a deer under, because you can actually see the deer's head on one side and either legs or the front legs or the back legs, one of the two on the other side, and the 2 legs of the Sasquatch walking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a Sasquatch. And it's
walking home with his lunch pail.
It's walking right in the area, Duke, where we ended up putting the RV.
Oh my God.
Game camera.
No, we didn't have any well, that wasn't a game camera, but yeah. Oh my gosh. It's been a wild ride. I mean, all this started in Honubby, you know. I mean, this whole ride for me started in Honubby, and I thought the whole thing was a joke. I thought people were dumb. I thought it was just a big, you know, free-for-all fun thing. You know, I thought it was something they just made up. I never expected any of this, and I had to go back and apologize to the people that I rolled my eyes at and called them I don't call them liars, but you know, that I didn't believe. I had to go back and apologize to those people because I'm sure that they, you know, weren't too happy about me saying, yeah, okay, you know, whatever you believe. But my first sighting down there got me interested, and then, like I said, we bought that property. My husband got his first not encounter, but he got vocalized at up there on the property, and that kind of turned him around. Then he saw one here, and I told you that, you know, trees don't walk, and this big old white thing took off. He went out there, took a picture. I mean, not took a picture. He went out with a flashlight, shined a light on it, came back in the house and said, I don't remember a big old white tree being there out there in the woods. And I said, well, go back and look. He went back and looked. He goes, well, the tree's gone. And I said, yeah, well, trees don't walk. So, so we had a great big, huge white or gray Sasquatch standing right there looking at Denny one night.
It was gray.
Gray. He said it was gray.
Yeah,
So I know there's a clan here. I don't know who all is there, but there's a big guy, there's a female, and there's a little one, and I don't know if the little one is the female's baby or sibling, because all I've found was mainly 2 sets of prints, 2 sizes all over the property, which is to me the female and the young one. Very rare that I find that male's, which was over 19 inches back there in the back. I only found 1 print of his. The rest of them were all those 2. So I don't know how many are in this clan here. One of the people I talked to all the time told me when she asked, she said that there were 8. I was like, 8? I've only seen 3 prints. I don't know where you get 8, but that's how many rocks were on that rock stack on the way into this property when we first got here too, was 8. So I don't have any idea if that's indicative or true or just a coincidence.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I've noticed from observing the tracks up in the area that we're in right now, which has a plentiful supply to observe. And that's that even when they're little, they're so heavy, they tend to leave tracks. Even when they're tiny, you know, they got 6-inch foot, 8-inch foot, 10-inch foot. It looks like a cookie cutter, and you're like, how can something with a foot that small be that damn heavy? But they are.
Yeah.
So you would think then that as they're getting larger and progressively heavier, it would be, you know, more common to find their ginormous tracks squished into the ground. But apparently as they get bigger and smarter, they're getting better and better at hiding their tracks. Mm-hmm. So the ones that leave the really huge tracks, you almost never find those ones. And if you were just going to go by, we found X number of tracks this size, X number of tracks that size, X number of tracks that size, let's extrapolate what the population is in the area and what size they are. You could be completely wrong. There could be a bunch of big ones that you haven't found the tracks of, or very rarely find one.
Yeah, I remember me saying that in the beginning. A lot of things I thought I was right on, I was totally wrong on.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Yeah, I don't know how many are out here, but I know there's got to be plenty. And for them to do the damage that they do with the population here of wild hog and stuff, there's got to be a lot. There's got to be a lot. And I know this whole area here is just loaded, and I can't wait. One of these days I am going to head that direction, to that 45 miles that direction. I'm not going to go the whole 45 miles, but I'm going to head out that direction and see what I can find, because it didn't take me probably 600 yards back there before I found an X game trail. I mean, not X, meaning it was crossed. It was a 4-way, which is, I'll put it that way. It was a 4-way game trail. Very, very fresh, very, very often used, okay? And I had been back there before. Now, this time that I went back there and I was taking somebody else, now all of a sudden there was a great big huge blind on one, say the northeast corner of it. A great big huge blind. And we're talking, this thing is huge, all woven together like someone was weaving a basket, for crying out loud. It was just very intricately made. And then you look back at the other side. Now they're starting to build another one on the opposite side. So this is perfect. And I didn't touch it. I don't touch anything of theirs anyway. But I went back there, and one of the guys that I had taken back there was taking multiple pictures. And I told him, I said, you know, this wasn't here last time we were here, and this wasn't here last time we were here. And then I turned around and went to go back, and then I found a nice big, probably 12-inch tree that had been not just knocked over, but it had been knocked over and twisted off at the base of where they broke it. It's twisted, completely twisted. And I figured, I'm saying to myself, well, with all the storms we had, we probably had one of those little gust nados, or maybe one of the sassies grabbed it as the tornado was taking it away and it twisted it. I mean, it was so funny. I was laughing so hard. I can't tell you what's out there. I can't tell you what they do. All I do know, Duke, is I'm having a pretty good time with my interaction with these guys. And I'm learning almost every single day something new about what they're doing, or how they're acting. And I'm comfortable, very comfortable with the fact that they're getting comfortable enough with me, that they're getting this close, because I'm hoping and praying at some point they'll actually walk out in front of me like some people have them do, and not be afraid, or not be aggressive, or not growl at me. Just stand there so we can look at each other eye to eye. That's what I really want to happen.
In front of me, I'll be first in heaven.
Yeah, Denny, stop. My husband said if one walked out in front of him, he'd be in heaven. He would die on the spot. I've seen them face to face, so they don't bother me that way. Of course, I know they don't look alike, but
yeah, I've only seen 4. 3 of the good ones, 1 of the bad ones.
Yeah, I'd really want to. I want one to walk out in front of me and just look at me. That's what I want. From whatever happens after, that's fine, but that's what I would like to have happen. I don't want to see it through a window anymore. I don't want to see it through a door. I want to see it standing in front of me. It's I don't know why, but that's what I want. I think one of these days that'll actually happen. With as close as they've gotten to me now, I don't doubt that at some point that'll happen.
Well, it has a lot to do with their comfort level. You know, I was referring earlier to the show I was watching earlier tonight, and you were talking about calling them in and being able to do the different calls and stuff. And then the guest was talking about using the shofar, the old trumpet-like instrument from the Holy Land. And they had been experimenting with calling them in with that, which apparently works and everything. And I asked the question in chat, why are you calling them in? Why don't you just go there and camp, and they'll show up and visit? Yeah. What do you call them for? Yeah.
Yeah. I can sit at the window and click, you know, when I know they're around, and they'll click back, but I'm not going to go out there and say, hello, come on in. Yeah. You know, I mean, they're there anyway. I mean, they've already, if you got a group going on and you're out there, they already know you're there. You don't have to call
exactly. Them. Oh, they know we're showing up before we even get there. And then when we do get there, they follow us around the whole damn time that we're there. So it's like, why are you calling them in? You know, this is tactics for what I call hit and run research. You go to an area you've never been there before. You do some calls to see if you get an answer, see if there's anything around there. And, you know, if you manage to tick them off by imitating a call too well, and they think it's actually another Sasquatch, and then get angry when they show up, then you need your vehicle pointed, aimed outward, so you can leap in and quickly flee. I don't do research like that. I go to where they are and I camp there.
Yeah.
And I don't call them.
Hey,
I know that they know that I'm there. If they want to show up, they will.
Yep. I camp here. They know. I mean, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't have to call them in. They come in on their own. They're so curious. And like you and I were talking earlier, they have such a sense of humor. Oh my goodness, they have such a sense of humor. Some of them do very much.
We got a nickname for one of ours up there. We call him Squeezy because he seems to like to squeeze things.
Oh yeah.
He had an empty lighter fluid container. You know, those like kind of squarish metal containers. Apparently, you squeeze them and they go boop boop. Well, he had one across the river he was playing with, and he chased the wild deer into camp. And they wouldn't leave. And then the next time he was there was about a year later. Scott was there, and he had picked up one of his empty water bottles and held it right next to the fabric of his tent where his head was, and was squeezing it over and over again, going.
Oh my gosh.
Until Scott went, knock it off, I'm trying to sleep. So we call him
that
Squeaky.
noise is so irritating.
Well, he was just sitting, he said, for about the first minute, I couldn't figure out what it was. I recognized the sound, and I was going through my memory going, what is that? What is that? It's not an animal. It's not the river. It's not a natural sound. It's a plastic bottle. Somebody's squeezing a plastic bottle. Knock it off, I'm trying to sleep.
Oh my gosh, yes, exactly. Oh.
But
Yeah.
again, it's a good example of, yes, they have a sense of humor. Messing with humans is funny. And when humans take it as a joke and laugh, it's probably even funnier because it's like, oh, they're getting it. They appreciate our humor.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can just imagine. Can you imagine? I don't know if you've ever heard one laugh, but we were in Honaby once, and the group that was down there was 12 of us. One of them said they heard it laughing, and Troy, the guy that had taken us out, he said there's one that's down there that likes to laugh. He imitates people's laughs, and so when this one was here, when that one was there, his laugh sounded almost like a I don't know, 900-pound Donald Duck. It was the strangest noise you ever heard. And he said, oh, no, that's them laughing. Well, I'm sorry. I've never heard that before. So I guess I've never heard them laugh if that's how they laugh, because that was just, I think that would crack me up. I think that would absolutely crack me up.
So how many years ago was it that this, you said this started over by Honaby, which of course has a bad reputation. How long ago was that you started having interaction, started having this stuff happen, knew they existed?
The first year we went down was 2013, wasn't it? 2013, I think. Yeah, 2013. And
so that's quite a while already, though.
Yeah, and that was the first time we had gone to the Honaby conference. And that's where I met Troy, and we started talking, and he invited me to one of their night expedition type things that they had, or weekend excursions, whatever you want to call them. And because it's not really an expedition, but and I couldn't understand some of the stuff that happened, during that first time that I was there. They were talking about eye shine. They were talking about, all the stuff they were doing. And I was just there to basically prove that they were all hoaxing. They had been doing it for so many years. When I found out how many years they had already been doing it, I figured they had it all set up. They had it all set up and ready for people to come out and get an experience of something that didn't exist. And honestly, that's what I was there to prove, because I'm just not that type of person. But it's when they came down, running down off of that I don't know, that mountainside, that hill, when they came flying down that hill that sounded like a herd of elephants or 10,000 horses, and then came to an abrupt stop, not far from us. I was like, that can't be imitated. And what the heck was that? He goes, oh, they're here. And I'm like, what?
Let the festivities begin.
Yeah, and then he told me that he showed us all in the beginning there up on the top of that hill that what most people think are eye shine are the cabin lights, and you can see them through the tree line, but it looks like eye shine. So he said, make sure that you just ignore that. So I'm gathering wood, and I kind of look up, and I'm not looking in the direction of the cabins, I'm just looking up, because I heard movement out there, and I looked up and I saw eyes, and I said, Troy, and as I'm looking, they're blinking, and I said, Troy, I think you need to come over here. I said, I see eyes. He goes, no, I told you. He goes, that's the cabins up there. And I said, do the cabin lights blink? He said, no. And he came over and he looked, and he goes, oh, there's one. And I said, there's one what? What the heck? And he goes, one of the big guys, and I said, oh my gosh, you're crazy. And he goes, watch, I'm going to make it mad. I said, are you out of your mind? I mean, if they really exist, you're going to make it mad? And he did a monkey call, and that eye shine went from a very yellowish amber color to red.
Red. Yeah.
And I mean, that thing was snapping trees and shaking trees. And he put us on the ATVs and said, let's get out of here. He said, I really ticked him off. And then the entrance that we came in on, was a clear path because he had taken people down there all the time. And all of a sudden there was debris all over it, big logs and stuff like that, where we had to get out, move everything around and go. And he said, I'll never do that again. But the second time I had gone down there is where I saw my first one. That's the first time I ever saw one.
Did this guy ever see a messing with Sasquatch commercial or something?
Oh, no, but he loved doing with them. I mean, he told me one story, and I started laughing because I know they got a sense of humor. He's been doing this for years. I mean, absolutely years. And he knows the clan very, very well, and they know him. And he was out there with a bunch of people. I say a bunch, but let's just say probably a maximum of 5-6 people that he takes out for walks at night in certain areas. And he had to stop and go to the bathroom. And they were they were close to the area that he usually has a lot of activity in. And as he walked off and excused himself to use the restroom, one of the little ones came flying right at him. I mean, within feet of him, and he froze, and the rest of the people behind it saw it, and then this thing just took off nonchalantly, walking like, I got you. And Troy said, oh my gosh, he scared me so bad. He's like, 'cause he doesn't get buff charged, they like each other, but that's their sense of humor. The more you get to know them, the more they think they can, so I don't know. But then, like I said, I went down there. A child actually is the one that pointed out the Sasquatch to me. The rest of the adults were standing around talking to each other, but this kid, had left the group. Well, I had seen a big cat right before we got into camp. So everybody was on alert. So all the adults with the kids were around this campfire, and all of a sudden this little kid takes off by himself. And none of the adults are following this kid. And I'm like, no. And of course, I love kids. So I followed the kid. He goes, oh, look, there's one. I mean, nonchalantly, like, he sees them every day. And I get down to his level and I looked, and sure enough, I saw something very dark because the canopy made it darker than it actually was. And then one had just kind of jumped behind this little brush pile or something. And then the second one was walking between 2 trees, but it didn't walk, it just kind of glided, I mean, it didn't look like, it didn't bounce, it wasn't normal.
It doesn't bob up and down at all.
Right, and then its head was kind of facing forward, like bent forward, and I couldn't tell it was cone shaped, but it looked like someone with a hoodie that was just dragging their head down, I mean, and it took 1.5 steps and then it disappeared into that same, wood pile or whatever, or brush or whatever. Then when we went over to take a look at it, the tree that it had walked underneath was about 10 foot, and it bent down its head to get underneath that tree limb. And so I went back up when we went back up after we were done with that night, I went back up into the cabin I was staying in, and I climbed underneath the covers, and I had to process this because I've spent a lot of time as a kid, out and about. I was not a TV watcher or a homebody. I was a rotten kid. I spent all my time outside causing trouble. And so I never even heard of it. I'd never even seen the movie Boggy Creek when I was a kid. I never even heard of it. I grew up in a concrete jungle, for crying out loud, in a true hood, back in the day. So I never heard anything about this. So this was all a shock to me, and it took me quite a while before it registered that there was a possibility they existed, and that couldn't be hoaxed, because nobody could have hoaxed it. You couldn't have gotten to that area, someone who was hoaxing it, they couldn't have left that area fast enough. You know what I'm saying? We were too close, we were too close to it. By the time we all ran over there, a person that was hoaxing it that big would have made some kind of noise. You would have found something. We all had flashlights. It was impossible. So from that point on is when I got, a little bit more interested and started doing some research on my own to find out and listening. I listened to Wes Germer's show, and I listened to your show, and I listened to some other people's shows, and I've just went on and on and on, just, really starting to learn more about it. And then I started going to places that I knew that were just wooded. Of course, I was the normal first time, quote unquote researcher. I found any place that was wooded, any, parks and stuff like that. And I just went looking around to see if I could see or hear anything that reminded me of what I saw in Honabi. And I ran into quite, a couple of times things that I was not sure of, but I never had any kind of bad interactions. And then when we bought that property, everything changed. I met Boo. It became almost, it was like clockwork. He knew our routine from day one, and he met us there every time we showed up. He would leave something on the step, or he actually, and this is going to blow your mind, Duke, but as God is my witness, this is the truth. We always gathered our wood when we got there. We never gathered wood before. We always used all of it for the weekend we were there. And that's just how it was. We would gather all of our wood when we first got there. It was part of our routine. This time was when it was cold. And we were talking like, to me, cold, 30 degrees outside. And I didn't know the generator would run heat in that RV. I just didn't know that. Anyway, so we were getting ready. We were all bundled up. We were going to go outside and collect our wood. When we got there, we had talked about it. We come up the hill. And as soon as I pulled in, there's a great big, huge pile of wood. And I was like, sweet, Sandy got wood for us because she knew we were coming. So Sandy pulls up after we get up and we start unloading. She pulls up in her truck. And I said, thank you. And she said, for what? And I said, for the wood. She goes, I didn't get you any wood. They stocked that area right next to my campsite. They stocked it with wood, all different sizes, and in the same pile that we always stacked it in. We had piles of wood, and we didn't do it, and Sandy didn't do it. I was like, what the heck? I was blown away. I said, no way, this is impossible. They couldn't have done this. I really thought Sandy was just joking with us. And so I asked her, and she's not a very joking person. She's a pretty serious person. And I said, seriously, thank you. She goes, seriously, I didn't put the wood there. And so we went over and looked at it a little bit better. None of them were cut. They were broken. Yeah. So they piled up a big old pile of wood for us. And I was just shocked. And then, like I said, after that is when plenty of times, we had seen them and heard them. They stopped us from walking down a path that would have walked right into a bear. Boo growled at us and we backed off, and then we saw the bear. And then, like I said, we were there 3 years. We were there, a little over 3 years. And we spent every week up there, every weekend that we could, we spent up there. And then this one night, I'm watching the babies. I actually watched one because I started a fire every night, whether it was hot or cold. I started a fire every night because it was just my routine. And one night, I'm sitting there, the kids are all sleeping, and all of a sudden I see either a hand or a foot. I couldn't tell you which one it was because the hair was long and I was, pretty far away from it. It was dark, but it looked like either a hand or a foot going towards the fire, and I screamed. I said, no! And that thing bolted. It took off running like you just shot it in the butt with buckshot. But it shortly thereafter was the night that I saw the big guy. What I believe was the alpha male. And I didn't realize how big he was until later on. But I'll just explain this briefly. I was watching the babies play, and there was eye shine everywhere. You could hear them making all this noise, and the little ones were running all over the place. And I was just in my glory. I felt so comfortable because they were comfortable enough with me to let the babies right there. They had jumped on the front porch a couple times, the little steps, and basically felt like it was going to tip it over. They had tried to open the door a couple times. I had to yell at them. But this night, what they did was they were all playing around outside, and I heard a lot of noise, and I was all excited, and all of a sudden, everything went dead quiet. Dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. It was dead silent. And I looked around, no more babies, no more eye shine, no more nothing. And to my right, in the bedroom, to my right, there's a window right there, and you can see the push out of the camper. to the left is the end of the bed, and then another window, and then you see the campfire out there. And I'd look back and forth, and I was like, what is going on? Now, remember, I'd been looking at this push out for, 3.5, 4 years. And I look to the left, and I see the campfire, and I'm looking around. I don't see the babies. I don't hear anything. And I look back to the left real briefly, and that white push out is now black.
Oh.
Now, there's nothing there that can, I've been there every season. There's nothing there that can block. It's about 6 foot, the push out is. So there's nothing that can block that. There's no tree right there. I mean, that is the edge of the tree line. And with the moon shining right there, you would see that. I mean, I've seen that bright white every single night that I've been there all those years. So I'm looking, I was like, what the heck could have done that? So dummy me kind of leans my head off the side of the bed, looking, going down, almost to the floor, and I'm looking straight up until I see a set of eyes. And I froze, almost falling off the bed, looking straight up at these two massive eyes. And I saw what looked like, I've explained this to people before, it looked like the cheekbones were chiseled, like they had used, like it was rock, they were real sharp. And the brow ridge was real sharp, and this thing was bigger than my push out. It was about 2 feet above my push out, which I didn't realize how tall my push out was until later. But anyway, and it just stared at me, and I was like, what did I do? I mean, I'm not going to tell you I wasn't scared, but I wasn't panicking, no anxiety. I was just, seriously, I was wondering what the heck I did wrong. Why would this big, huge male that I've never seen before, because Boo wasn't that big. Boo was about 7.5 foot. This thing was closer to 10 foot tall. And I was like, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. And all the kids were here, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together at that point, not until later. But it just stared at me, didn't say a word, didn't make a sound. You could hear the breathing, but that it didn't make a sound. And then it just kind of turned its body and walked off. And I was like, oh my gosh. And at that, it unnerved me. It didn't make me panic or nothing. It unnerved me. And then all of a sudden, the activity started up again. And I took a deep breath, and I was like, oh my gosh. Well, the next time we'd come up, it was really cold again. I'd closed all the windows and doors because we didn't have any heat. And the mini blinds are really, really tiny, but if you're laying down on the bed and you look straight up, you can see outside perfectly, even with the closed mini blinds, from underneath it. And I start seeing, I'm shivering, I'm so cold, and I've got all these blankets wrapped up in me, and I've got my head there, and I like looking outside, and I'm watching what looks like something walking by the window. But I'm figuring, it's just my eyes playing tricks on me, right? So until I started counting them, they were different sizes and different colors and different shapes. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, I know, because I heard the footfall. It's the wild horses. That's what it is. Well, the shapes were wrong. I figured it was just my eyes, and they were just shadow. And I'm counting 1, 2, 3, because I'm bored now. And I figured, I didn't open the window or anything. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. And thank God I didn't, because when I got to 9, all of a sudden, a head popped up in the window. Scared me half to death. My mouth dropped open. My eyes got big. This thing's mouth dropped open. Its eyes got big. And we just stared at each other. And I was like, and it, oh my gosh, I was 1.5 feet away from that window where that head was. And I'm trying to get Lizzie up, and she's not paying any attention. And I'm freaking out because this thing is right in my face. And then it drops down. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And then it pops up again, and I do the same thing, and it does the same thing. And then it takes off running. And I was like, Lizzie, wake up, Lizzie. She's like, eh. And I came home, and I was just elated. I got to see a baby, right? A baby. Yeah. Its skin was soft, and it had a little teeny tuft of hair on top, and it had big, huge eyes. And it was, to me, kind of cute. I brought we had come back a little bit later, probably about a month later. I don't even know how long it was, because I don't pay attention to time anymore. But I brought my grandkids up and they had 10 days off for school, and we were just going to spend the 10 days up there. And, you know, I backed the truck up, did my normal routine, and my grandson, Gabe, is about 6 foot, almost 6 foot. And it hit me when he was in the back of the truck. I said, oh, hey, Gabe, go to that window. I want to see how big that baby was. Never expecting Gabe's head not to touch the bottom of the window. So that baby that I saw that looked so cute was over 7 foot tall. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I remember having to get up on the ladder, my 6 foot extension, my 6 foot ladder, to clean off the top of that push out. So when we climbed up there, we realized that was 8 foot off the ground, the top, and then he was 2 foot above that. So he's about 10 foot tall. So that was the big one I saw then. And then it was on from there. I mean, it was on. I mean, I was allowed to. That's when Boo showed up, when Lisa was there. He sat down the wood line 30 feet away from us, 30 yards away from us. He walked in between trees and just stood there looking at us. One of the females, and I know I'm rambling because I could tell you this stuff for days, all the stuff that happened up there. But we had a female, and she was pretty far away from us, but we were at the gifting area, and we were stooped down, we were rearranging some stuff, and I looked up and it looked like a tree stump. And Lizzie looked up and I said, what is that? And I said, that wasn't just there. And she goes, I didn't see that because it was really dark. And while we're both watching, she moves her hands away from her side, so she's no longer a stump, it's a Sasquatch. She actually moved her arms so we could see her arms and see, because she was pretty far away. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, they started showing themselves to us. And if I'd have stayed there, if that other, whatever cryptid was there that night that chased us off, if I'd have stayed there, I think I would have had my face-to-face outside, because I think it would have been Boo. So, yeah, we had so much. I mean, I could go, like I said, I could go on for days with all the stuff I've never told people, stuff that has happened to us out there. The talking, just everything. I mean, there was so much, Duke. I was in my glory being up there. I mean, I hated to leave that place, but whatever else was up there, I wasn't welcome, and it wasn't welcome. And I didn't know if Boo was, I don't know if they moved into that neighborhood and kicked Boo out or vice versa. I don't know. But all I do know is that Boo did end up coming to Arkansas where we were. And the night that Kevin was there is the first time that he saw Boo over there by my truck. And of course, the people that were on the live chat that night saw it too. They knew when my daughter-in-law pulled in from work and this thing ran in front of my truck into the backyard to get away from her headlights. Yeah, I've got years of like I said, I could go on for hours telling you all the stuff that happened with other people and people I've helped, and with their Sasquatch problems. And it's just it's a unique experience, and it's something that I can't undo. I can't unsee them. I can't prove them. I don't care about proving them or disproving them. I don't care anything about that. But I just want to know where it's going to go from here. I'd like to know, what the next step is, or if I should do anything different. Right now I'm just doing the same thing I normally do.
Right. Well, we shall have to have you back again then to relate a lot more of those experiences and let everybody else in the audience know about some of the amazing things that you encountered and seen. And yeah, I know you got plenty of that on your list. And in the meantime, everybody, if you want to check out her channel, DEE SIMS channel is Lady in the Woods on YouTube. Go check it out. And she got a lot of older videos and stuff, so there's plenty of stuff to go through. And they're like out there running around making noise and stuff while she's sitting out there in the dark. So fun times.
They absolutely are. And I'll try to get you those pictures, and like I said, if we can do something about the audio, I'll send you the audio so you can listen to some amazing stuff on that audio.
Yeah, if you can get me the audio, we'll include it on the show here. People can check that out too. Like I said, send your pretty pictures of the strawberry supermoon and the Google image of the Sasquatch carrying the deer, if you can find that one, because everybody will want to see it. But thanks for being on the show again. Was there anything that you wanted to say before we cut her short here?
No, it's just my channel is not just about Sasquatch. My channel is also about alternative medicine, you know, taking
All
care of
right.
yourself. So that helps too. And
Yes.
wild animals, stuff like that.
Right on, useful knowledge. So there you go. If you need information on that, there's something else that you can get.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me, Duke. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm very sorry that I didn't have you on the show sooner. I've been, you know, there's a bunch of people on my backlog list now that should have been on the show like 3 years ago. And as I have them on, I'm going to officially apologize to each one. And you're on the list, so I'm sorry I didn't have you on sooner.
Well, I'll tell you what, because Kevin passing away, I probably would have said no. I've said no to a lot of people because I just, that was a great loss for me. You know, I just got to the point with him that he was actually well. You know, he was getting so much better. He was able to walk, you know. He didn't have his legs amputated, you know, and they wanted to do that. So he was well on his way, and it really tore me apart. So it's okay, you know. I mean, things are, and lots of stuff happened between then and now. So timing's perfect for everything.
Yep, tends to work out the way it's supposed to work out. I know it was rough for me too, because Kevin was basically my best friend at the time that he died. So extra horrible. But again, really appreciate you being on here, and everybody go check out her channel, not only for the Sasquatch live streams, but for the healing stuff. But you know, again, she was helping Kevin greatly. I was getting the reports from Kevin about how much you know, his health and everything was improving via the helpfulness of Dee, the lady in the woods, giving him good and sound advice. And so, once again, thanks for being on the show, dear.
Well, thanks again for inviting me. You have a great night.
And you will be back again. Meanwhile, everybody else out there, always remember, safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Try and be kind to everyone. Do not punt the puck, would you? Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't flip off the mountain giant. And God help you, whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiees. Night, everybody.